There's actually hundreds of different Cordyceps species, but when we're talking about the potential health benefits, we're usually referring to either Cordyceps sinensis or Cordyceps militaris. And these two varieties are known to be adaptogenic and to modulate immune function, but they also have a lot of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties too, which make them really useful when treating cardiovascular diseases as well as certain types of cancer. Cordyceps can also increase the absorption and the utilization of oxygen within the body, making it great for respiratory conditions as well as for cognitive function. But the thing that Cordyceps is best known for, aside from The Last of Us, is its ability to increase energy, strength, and stamina, which is really the main reason why it's so popular as a supplement. Traditionally speaking, according to both Chinese and Tibetan medicine, Cordyceps is understood to possess both yin and yang qualities. So it's energizing and restorative. And because of this, it was traditionally categorized as a medicine that could balance the vitality of both the body and the mind. And premium quality Cordyceps can have a significant effect on our energy levels, on our ability to generate energy for extended periods of time, as well as on our ability to recover more quickly and more efficiently after exercise. The way that Cordyceps impacts energy metabolism actually has a lot more to do with its role as an adaptogen, and the way that it works is really impressive. So from a purely scientific standpoint, how exactly does the Cordyceps fungus give you more energy? Well, before we can answer that question, we need to take a brief physiological detour, which is going to provide some really important context, because Cordyceps actually has a pretty systemic influence over just about every stage of energy metabolism. So understanding this a little bit better is going to give us some important insight into how Cordyceps actually works, as well as the kind of things we need to be looking for in a Cordyceps product. So to start with, there's a molecule in the body called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. And ATP is really the energy currency of the body. Now, every single movement and muscle contraction, every heartbeat, every metabolic function, even every thought, basically everything that requires energy is the result of ATP. But ATP shouldn't really be looked at as a type of fuel that is burned within our cells. It's actually a lot more like a battery that stores energy, and that energy is released whenever a biological action demands it. And so, to put it really simply, ATP is created from the food that we eat and the air that we breathe. And broadly speaking, there are three main stages to ATP production. The first step is glycolysis, which takes place within the liquid cytoplasm of the cell. And this stage is where the nutrients that we eat, in this case carbohydrates, are broken down into more simple molecules. And then the byproducts of glycolysis are used to power the next phase of ATP production, which is known as the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle takes place within the mitochondria, which are tiny cellular organelles that are often referred to as the powerhouse of the cell, because like an engine, the mitochondria are responsible for converting fuel into energy. So during the Krebs cycle, the nutrients from the glycolysis stage are exposed to oxygen in a process that's known as cellular respiration. These nutrients become oxidized and broken down, which produces two different coenzymes that act as energy carriers, which are required for the third and final stage. The final step is called the electron transport chain, and this takes place within the inner membrane of the mitochondria. And as the electron transport chain is so oxygen dependent, this stage is also part of cellular respiration. Here, the coenzymes from the Krebs cycle carry electrons through a series of proteins, and as these electrons travel through this protein gradient, energy is produced that is used to pump protons back through the mitochondrial membrane in the opposite direction. The only way for these protons to successfully complete this journey is to pass directly through an enzyme called ATP synthase, which parcels up all of this accumulated energy into ATP molecules. So the resulting ATP molecules are then used to power every physical and mental task, really every biological process in the body. So to summarize, We eat, we breathe, and our cells refine the nutrients and the oxygen into ATP molecules, which are a very stable form of energy that can easily be used, stored, and recycled, which is precisely why ATP is known as the energy currency of the body. But how exactly does Cordyceps play into all of this? Well, high-quality Cordyceps already contains adenosine, which is obviously part of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, but more importantly, the primary active compound in Cordyceps is a nucleoside called Cordycepin, which is actually a derivative of adenosine. Now, Cordycepin possesses a lot of pharmacological activity, and it's heavily researched for its medicinal properties. One of those properties is that Cordycepin activates an enzyme in the body called AMPK, which plays a fundamental role in cellular energy homeostasis. So when our energy levels begin to drop, AMPK enhances the uptake of glucose into our cells, which increases the activity of glycolysis, the first stage of ATP production. AMPK can also adjust the metabolism of each individual cell so that oxygen is utilized more efficiently, which increases the oxidation of nutrients within the mitochondria, optimizing both the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain, the second and third stages of ATP production. When the AMPK enzyme becomes activated by Cordycepin, it also stimulates a gene called PGC1A, causing it to also become more active. Now, PGC1A is basically a genetic transcription factor for mitochondrial biogenesis, which means that when this gene is switched on, it physically constructs a lot more mitochondria inside every cell. So thanks to Cordycepin, the combined stages of ATP synthesis become enhanced and optimized, but they're also multiplied many times over thanks to PGC1A, causing an exponential increase in mitochondria. And as the average cell uses approximately 10 million ATP molecules per second, this can substantially increase our capacity for energy production. So with a lot more mitochondria spreading the workload, the efficiency of energy metabolism increases, meaning that the ATP that is used can also be recycled more rapidly, which supports the liver in storing and releasing glycogen, directly increasing stamina and endurance. Post-workout recovery can also become quicker and more efficient because with more mitochondria, the energy-guzzling process of clearing lactate buildup after intensive exercise is actually a lot faster, which makes recovery times shorter. And because lactate itself can easily be converted back into glucose, it can then be reused in the process of glycolysis to create more ATP. So as an adaptogen, Cordyceps can have a profound effect on energy homeostasis. It can improve energy levels, strength, stamina, and muscle building, as well as enhancing both performance and recovery. But we're not going to get optimal results from just a single dose of Cordyceps. Now, it's understood that the active compound Cordycepin starts to gain momentum in the body after about 2 to 3 days of daily use. So the best results are going to come from using premium quality Cordyceps regularly over the course of time. So the performance enhancing potential obviously makes Cordyceps really interesting to sports people, but optimizing ATP metabolism is also critically important for the functioning of the immune system, but also the cardiovascular, neurological, respiratory, and even reproductive systems. And as we age towards and beyond midlife, our innate mitochondria production and ATP synthesis both begin to decline. And obviously that results in chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and really just the body feeling sore and stiff all the time. And Cordycepin is generally recognized as a very safe, non-toxic compound, so there aren't really any significant side effects to be wary of, although there are some possible contraindications, because Cordycepin can help to regulate both blood sugar and lipids, and so it can interact with anticoagulants and blood sugar medications, so you do need to be careful, or really just avoid Cordyceps altogether if you're being prescribed those drugs. So what about Cordyceps products? Well, quality really is the bottom line. And if we're going to use low quality, low potency products, then we should expect equally poor results. As mentioned earlier, the two most tried and tested medicinal species are Cordyceps sinensis and Cordyceps militaris. Now, Cordyceps sinensis products should always be made from the liquid fermented mycelium, and products using Cordyceps militaris should always come from organically cultivated fruiting bodies. Also, in the wild, Cordyceps militaris parasitizes silkworm larvae, so fruiting bodies that are grown on a substrate containing silkworm larvae do typically contain a higher quantity of active compounds when compared to fungi that are cultivated using vegan methods. And even though there are hundreds of important compounds in Cordyceps, the militaris fruiting bodies do generally contain a higher quantity of Cordycepin than the sinensis mycelium, although the mycelium product can also be really good. And some products are also a combination of both of these varieties, which again does have the potential to be great quality. There are products out there where there's a pretty big discrepancy between the quality of the marketing and the quality of the product itself. And so if you are going to use Cordyceps for its effects on energy metabolism, or really for any other reason, just remember that genuine quality Cordyceps should specify the quantities of certain active compounds, not least Cordycepin. And if a product doesn't tell you how much Cordycepin it contains, then its usefulness as a medicine should probably be called into question. But if we are using Cordyceps, then having a rudimentary understanding of how it works in the body is actually pretty important, because a lot of people believe that Cordyceps is a stimulant, and if you take it in the evening, for example, it's going to keep you awake at night. And this isn't the case at all. Cordyceps doesn't stimulate a sudden increase in energy levels in the way that something like caffeine would do. Cordyceps optimizes our energy infrastructure on a genetic level, helping us to produce, store, use, and recycle energy more efficiently. Now, this fungus possesses many more therapeutic attributes than we're going to be covering in this video. That's something we can do in future videos, but it's important to understand that Cordyceps has been a really, really important part of traditional medicine in Asia for literally millennia. And there's now a rapidly expanding volume of scientific data and clinical trials, a lot of which is simply elaborating on many of the traditional benefits that were already established many centuries ago. Some parts of the world are now regulating Cordyceps as a novel food, claiming that there's insufficient evidence to back up many of its reported health benefits. And I find this interesting, considering that we have many centuries of recorded use in Asia, as well as a large quantity of modern scientific research. But if the active compounds in Cordyceps could be patented by pharmaceutical companies, then I'm sure its status as a novel food would disappear quite quickly. Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, I've provided some links in the description box to some of the existing research that focuses on Cordycepin and its effects on the various stages of energy metabolism.